Okay, I think it's in European time, rest of Europe, it's 3:15 p.m. So it's the minutes are good all over the world. The hour is different, of course. So welcome to everyone. We are now starting the session on citizen science, just to make it short. The co-hosts are Alexander Tura from the, I think, University of Sao Paulo, Brazil. Okay. Yannick Lera from CCleaner, and when she comes in, because she has another meeting in parallel, Anne Bowser from the Wilson Institute Center in Washington, D.C. So once again, hello, everybody. And as I said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. So good day to everyone. The floor is yours, Alex and Yannick. Go ahead.
Okay, so maybe I will shortly introduce the session. So this session is really on citizen science monitoring, and it will be divided mainly in two parts. The first part will be sharing of experience from different speakers, and the second part will be open to discussions. In these discussions, we would like to raise some specific questions, and I will give you a flavor of these questions right now, so you can think about them. And if you have more questions, please feel free to ask, as we are quite a large number of people. Maybe through the chat will be better. So in terms of questions, so really the first one is, do we need citizen science in the marine litter studies and science applied to marine litters? What are the existing best practices? What are the challenges? How do we manage the data quality? How do we collect and share the data? What are the improvements required for citizen science on marine litter? And what are the major concerns in the deployment of the citizen science for marine litter? About data quality, ethical aspect, data, users, scientific questions, and so on. And to what degree is it possible to standardize citizen science monitoring? So as you can see, many different questions. Some are quite easy, some maybe require some discussions and sharing of experience. And I will invite Alex to share with us the first presentations, if you are ready, Alex.
Thank you very much, Yannick, Hene, for the invitation to be part of this session and to participate in this discussion to improve the use of citizen science regarding marine litter. So this is the main goal of this session: how to improve, how to widen the usage in a properly of citizen science regarding marine litter. So I will introduce briefly the example report and the role of citizen science within the example report. I presented the example report yesterday, but a lot of people that are here were not yesterday, so it's important to capture and to perhaps set the scene within. Citizen science can be very helpful in terms of data, but not only in terms of data, because citizen science can be understood in another aspect, as you will see in the talks that we'll have this morning, or this afternoon, or this night, or tonight. So I'm sharing the screen, just a second. Here it is. So can you see my screen?
Yes, fine for us.
Thank you very much. So this is the GESAMP report. It was published last year. It's a collaborative work of several institutions. And the intention is to promote or to review guidelines and propose guidelines for monitoring and assessment of money litter. And the intention is to look for harmonization of data gathering and sharing so that we may have a nice and updated picture and a robust picture of what's out there in terms of money litter. The structure of the report is this. We have three initial chapters, setting the scene, bringing some definitions, and discussing important monitoring information and aspects of monitoring strategies like replication, like representativeness, and things like that. Then we have 4 chapters dealing with compartments like shoreline, seawater, seafloor, and biota. And then chapters after that related to sample processing and sample characterization. And then in chapter 10, we have several recommendations. In chapter 3 and in chapters 4 to 7, we gave a specific focus on citizen science. Not so deep, but we mentioned citizen science as an important aspect or approach to be developed and implemented regarding these compartments. So this is a briefing of what I'm going to talk to you. So the idea of harmonization is to reduce uncertainty, allow data intercomparability, allow data sharing, encourage international cooperation, disseminate good practices, and support the development of targets and sub-indicators of the SDG 14 in a way that you can see. If you can see here, we have room to improve and to include citizen science here because it can improve these benefits I'm listing here. There is another aspect. We showed this picture yesterday, which makes an important relationship between monitoring and assessment and the important questions that are being done by decision makers or by the society. So one important aspect is that we collect data to support some kind of hypothesis or political or policy interest, policy concern in a way that the data can be very useful. Okay. As I said, the first chapters set the scene and brought some definitions like type of polymers, categories of litter, size and shape. And chapter 3, important aspects related to the design of monitoring and assessment, like the policy relevant questions, what is an indicator, what's a target, and in the end, the role of citizen science. And then Martin Thiel is going to talk soon, and he will explain a little bit more some of the aspects of citizen science we brought to the GESAMP report, especially related to the scientific questions citizen science is being able to answer at the moment, which doesn't limit our capacities to expand it in the future. Okay, so the size range was defined here, and as you could see perhaps yesterday, we are not using the international system for units. When we define microplastics, this is a historical definition of microplastics, including the pellets, so that the upper size limit of microplastic was set as 5 millimeters. So this is important because of some of citizen science approaches are not focusing on microplastics because of the difficulties and the time consuming and several other aspects that we will discuss today. So we provided several guidances to shoreline sampling which seems easy, but it's not. It's highly complicated because of beaches are highly dynamic. So it tells us different stories depending on where you collect the samples. The same applies to the sea surface and subsurface, because we have several aspects that bring noise to this kind of sampling, both related to the equipment, both related to the condition of the sea. So it's not an easy task to do. And we also have several guidances on sampling the seafloor, using divers, trawling, cameras, videos, video sampling, and also sediment sampling. So there are several possibilities to collect the samples, and also monitoring the biota using, for example, opportunistic sampling, market sampling, or targeting some kinds of organisms to see, to investigate ingestion, entanglement, or the effects on the habitats like coral reefs. And then there are several ways that we can look at the marine litter into these different compartments. And this table brings us an opportunity to link the compartments, the size of plastics, and the objective things we are facing when we go to nature, to the field, to sample, to the policy relevant questions. So if we are interested in tourism, in the effects of marine litter on tourism, we perhaps need to look at some specific compartments or plastic sizes. When we are interested in seafood safety, we need to look at different compartments or different sizes of litter, and then we can use this in a more objective and applied way. So this is an important guidance, so that we link science to decision making, and then we bring people a better idea of why they are doing that. I'm saying that because it's in science. These are the two pictures we inserted in the report. These pictures were provided by Martin and were created by his student. He is going to talk more about that, but they are here only to signal that in all these compartments, and in chapter 3, we stressed the importance of citizen science being part of the monitoring schemes. But we understood that there are some limitations to improve it, so that this kind of session, this kind of workshop is important to allow us to go deeper and understand what are the limitations, what are the potentialities, what can we learn from the previous experience, what kind of caution should we have in terms of ethical aspects related to dealing with people and doing science with people, so that we will have Natalia talking about the citizen and the science aspects of citizen science, so that we will have broader understanding of the specificities of citizen science regarding marine litter. So that's the first, that's the initial message I would like to share with you, and give the floor back to Yannick for the next talks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alex. We will leave the question for the second part of the session. Thanks a lot for this these highlights of the report. And I think Martin is almost ready to give his presentation. Martin, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks a lot for the invitation. Let me try. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay, so let me try to share my screen. And how does it work? You can see my screen now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so I will try to do what Alex asked me to do, and I hope that I will satisfy what he requested. I will talk a little bit about this topic, maybe a little bit more from the side of the citizens, and present it as an opportunity also for all of us. And before I go into my brief overview, I would like to mention that I'm coming probably from the litter side. So I'm a practitioner. I'm working in a marine citizen science program where we are working with school children now from several different countries in Latin America, and where we investigate together with them the problem of marine litter. So we started, and that's maybe one important lesson, we started small in the year 2007 with 4 schools from our locality. And that's, I think, at least for me, always an important point to highlight. So we do science together with the school children, and we started as a very small initiative. When you go to the coast, these images, you can see them all over the place, and you can see there's a problem, but often there is no scientific information. That's what gets all of us together. And when you see then images like that, they raise a lot of associations, and you don't have to be a scientist to ask you immediately all kinds of questions and to also come up with all kinds of answers immediately. So there's a lot of associations, and if you ask, for example, the question, where does it come from, you probably could already give an answer. However, what we need in many cases is solid scientific information to answer these questions. And so one of our tasks is to help guide how we can frame the scientific investigation in obtaining the data that are relevant in the context of marine litter research. And also, of course, if you see images like this, another association is, well, what can we do to prevent this? So environmental awareness. So basically, as a citizen science program, it's important to know what your goals are. And I believe that a good citizen science program should have 3 main goals. One is improve science literacy. And that's something that we know nowadays how important it is, where there's a lot of pseudoscience out there and a lot of fake news. It's important that people know about science and how science actually works. Then the second goal is generate relevant information, relevant data about marine litter. And the third goal is, of course, foster environmental awareness among the participants and beyond. And so then, for example, here, I continue like making reference to our own experiences. We then in the year 2008, for the first time, expanded our activities to the entire coast of Chile, which is almost 5,000 kilometers of coastline. And one of the first questions we asked was, which are the cleanest or the dirtiest beaches from the Chilean coast? And so here's another lesson. It's very important to have a clear question, because you need a clear question in order then also to define your methodology and have simple methodologies that citizens with all kinds of backgrounds can actually use and apply out in the field. So here you can see, for example, sampling of macro litter, sampling of small debris, and also school children applying a survey to people about marine litter. So standardized methodology, that's something that's very important, so that everybody does the same thing, and that also the data that come out of that are reasonable data. So you also, of course, need data verification. Then you have your first data. And in this case, for example, you can see that we managed to maintain this program over time. So we can see on this, and this is the next important step with citizen scientists, that you need to engage them in also the interpretation. So the first thing that anybody who looks at this figure can see is that there's one big problem in one region in the north of Chile. Everybody can see that, and you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that there's a problem. And then you can also see that there is not much change going on. So this is a very important step, that you engage your participants, your volunteers, in also the evaluation and the interpretation of the information that you get. Then the information, you make it available, first of course, to the participants, but also to the general public. The next important step is that you respond your scientific question and share the information with the scientific community, because citizen science is not only participation of citizens, but also science. So there needs to be a scientific question that needs to be responded. Then, of course, you can also share it with the media. That's another important point, because we also want to generate general awareness. So there's an opportunity with litter, because we all see it, and Alex already showed this figure, which basically is an example of how citizen scientists actually engage in all different aspects of a process. So there's an environmental problem that motivates citizens to participate. It also motivates scientists, professional scientists, and so there can be a very fruitful alliance between professional scientists, which is probably most of us here, and citizens who participate in these investigations. The other important thing here is that by engaging citizens, and in many cases, many programs that we are talking about, so you can, for example, everybody knows the International Coastal Cleanup, which has two goals. One is cleaning, but also generate information that can help to make decisions. You have thousands of citizens that are aware of the problem and that also share this information with others. And of course, that's very important in the sense of the decision-making process. So we see this as an opportunity by engaging citizens in the decision-making process. So by getting people involved, almost anything is possible. And I'm not sure whether I still have time. I guess not. But Alex also showed this little figure where you can see different scales of engagement of citizens. And Alex also wanted me to talk about what is possible in doing monitoring with citizens. Macro litter on the beaches is something that is possible. Then, for example, incidental observations of organisms that have come in contact with litter is something where citizens also can participate. Sample collections of specific samples. You all know, for example, the International Pellet Watch is also something that is possible. And a lot of these things of what is possible depends on you and your team, which is your coordination team, but it also depends on your citizens. Who are your citizen scientists? Exactly. With school children, you can do other things than you can do, for example, with university students. And so almost anything is possible, almost. And that's maybe the important lesson that I would like to finish with.
Thank you. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Martin. So very interesting sharing of experience and what we can do with citizen science. And so the next speaker is Métis Meloche. She will present us what are the challenges in terms of data aggregation when you do citizen science. Métis, are you ready?
Hi, I am almost ready. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Wonderful. So I work on the Earth Challenge 2020 team at the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars under Dr. Ann Bowser. Earth Challenge 2020 is a collaborative initiative between the U.S. Department of State, the Wilson Center, and Earth Day Network, and it's centered around 6 research questions, including what is the extent of plastic pollution. Our goals for Earth Challenge 2020 are to increase the amount of open, findable, interoperable citizen science and empower the public to share information and drive policy. We do this by integrating existing data and creating new data through our Earth Challenge 2020 app. For looking at the question, what is the extent of plastic pollution, our methodology was to look at macroplastic data from citizen science cleanups. The goal, to create an interoperable global marine litter baseline. We did this by integrating 3 different citizen science projects. We looked at data from 2015 to 2018 from Marine Debris Monitoring and Assessment Project Accumulation Report from NOAA. We also looked at the Trash Information and Data for Education Solutions from Ocean Conservancy and Marine Litter Watch from the European Environmental Agency. One of the issues, though, or the difficulties of data integration is that each organization has different data collection methods and different items are recorded differently. And it makes it difficult for these to be assessed together. For example, if I had a part of a plastic bag in MDMAP's accumulation, I would call that simply a bag, whereas tides would have a different classification, and so would Marine Litter Watch. Similarly with cutlery and dishware, it's difficult sometimes to find the exact category that matches across different existing citizen science data sets. As a result, the Earth Challenge 2020 approach was to create a tiered system. The first tier, classifying whether something is plastic or non-plastic. The second tier, identifying whether something's a hard plastic, a soft plastic, or either of the two, and then an other. A tier 3 is looking at the granularity listed in each of the individual data sets, what they listed it as. And then we have the data model where it has been mapped to our common data schema. Our common data schema is modeled very heavily off of the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Marine Litter Pickup Standards. We found that it covered most of the different sections and it allows aggregation. So you can keep the granularity of the individual data sets, but all things that are a bag can be classified as a bag, and all cutlery and dishware could then be classified as a cup, bowl, and plate. Data from all 3 data sets are mapped to this standard. Additionally, we worked with data owners and representatives from each of these organizations to make sure that we were interpreting their data correctly. In addition to integrating this data to attempt to understand what pollution might look like at marine debris at a global level, we also wanted to make sure that we documented the data through an open data portal. We call this the Citizen Science Cloud. It's where integrated data is available for download along with metadata, and it leverages GIS. This is from Esri, and you can see what is the extent of plastic pollution. There's a citizen science data portal, which is a developer's portal where you could pull APIs as necessary, and then an app that collects opportunistic plastic pollution data called Earth Challenge 2020. In addition to making sure that integrated data has a place to be published and that new data can be collected, we also wanted to make sure that the 53,000 and a little bit above the 53,000 plus data points from 2015 to 2018 had a place to understand or visualize that data. This is a screen grab from one of 2 maps that we created. This looks at where cleanup events are, how many volunteers participate, and the length of beach that's there. We have this data for 153 different countries. Additionally, we wanted to make sure that we were understanding what the top 10 most common plastic pollutant, marine debris plastic items were. So here's a screen grab from Chile. You can see that cigarette butts are 28.40%, plastic bottles and caps coming second, and other foam and plastic debris coming in third. By understanding what percentages you could have targeted national policy if you so chose. Some next steps. Some of the next steps that we're looking at are increased analytics. We are working with IBM and UNE to prototype a potential global marine litter dashboard that allows us to have a look at the total debris count by kilometer, which is something that we didn't do in our initial data set. By looking at mapping at density of plastics per square kilometer, we can align ourselves more closely with the UN Sustainable Development Goals 14.11b. Some other next steps are connecting governments to organizations and local cleanup communities. Currently, we are starting the process of working with the Ghana Statistical Service to locate where cleanup events are, and they are reaching out to organizations to work together to find out how they can collect data in a way that makes sense to their national policies. Some other hopes that we have are to incorporate additional citizen science projects. Some of these may or may not align perfectly with 14.11b and our photo data, but there are so many citizen science projects, and we did start with 3 data sources. We'd love to incorporate more and understand more to make sure that we have a sense of what a global marine litter baseline might look like. So to wrap things up, integration is difficult to do, and this is one methodology we're using to look at macroplastics. And there are some biases, right? So if you are looking at macroplastics, it's easier to pick up a larger item than maybe a smaller one. And it's more likely to pick up things where people are. But by understanding what's available at a global level to a local level, and understanding how different data sets can work together to paint a picture and build upon a common data schema, we can contribute or hope to contribute to national and global policy reporting metrics. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mathis.
So, our next speaker is Natalia. So, Natalia, the floor is yours. Natalia will talk about the different dimensions of citizen science and the place of citizen in the science.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Sorry. Well, hi, my name is Natalia Aguilar de Lopes. I'm from the Federal University of ABC in Brazil, and I'm going to present the results of a recently submitted paper entitled Balancing the Citizen and the Science Dimensions of Citizen Science, a review on marine litter literature as a case study. The authors of this paper are Kawabe, myself, Tuha, and Wiles. Well, citizen science is characterized by presenting 2 equally important dimensions, the citizen and the science one. It has become widely recognized that engaging with the citizen dimensions of conservation and environmental management is needed to produce robust and effective conservation policies, actions, and outcomes. Those citizen science approaches mainly focused on the science dimension may lose such an important role if not taking the citizen dimension into account. Similarly, initiatives that value the citizen dimension but that do not report on it prevent the accumulation of knowledge to make improvements in citizen science. So the questions of our paper were, what's our overall understanding of the science dimension within the marine litter literature? What's our current understanding of the citizen dimension? And what are the gaps within and between these two dimensions? So peer-reviewed articles and book chapters related to or describing citizen science initiatives focused on marine litter were surveyed on Web of Science and Science Direct platforms, using as keywords citizen science with marine litter or their synonyms or associated keywords, as you can see here in this table. After removing duplicates, the search results were screened by title and abstract, resulting in 52 search results that described 41 different initiatives, which were examined in terms of their objectives, geographical scale and socio-political regions, their science dimension, considering removal and recording of marine litter, size and type of marine litter, and their science citizen dimension regarding citizen scientists' profile, recruitment, involvement, tasks, training, assessment, data and results availability, and the acknowledgement of the citizen scientists' involvement. So our results evidenced that an unbalanced value placed on the citizen and the science dimensions of citizen science. The main value was to gather marine litter data, and there was an evident lack of concern about the reporting of the citizen dimension. The surveyed studies in general reported on litter features or abundance, and fewer reported on litter sources or pathways. A strong skewness to large-sized items and an underrepresentation of microliter was observed. Most search results were based in developed countries, so widening the global and coverage of citizen science initiatives to developing countries is urgent. Regarding the citizen dimension, almost 1/4 of the search results described their participants only as general public. Almost 40% of the search results did not mention how they recruited citizen scientists. Little information was found regarding the training of the citizen scientists. The report of learning outcomes supported by data was rare. Feedback from citizen scientists is also a big gap. Most initiatives involve the citizen scientists in a contributory way, and very often participants are seen only as data collectors. They are rarely invited to contribute in other aspects of the scientific research. Over a quarter of our search results did not acknowledge the citizen scientists' contribution, and almost 70% did not make any reference to the accessibility of the data or results. So some improvements are needed in the science behind citizen science. The advance in citizen science depends on its citizen dimension. So publications featuring marine litter citizen science initiatives should consider reporting their citizen dimension with more detail. Since citizen scientists can be considered our peers in this process, we proposed the peer framework for citizen science. So the P of the peer framework stands for plan. So since the beginning of the planning phase, the citizen dimension should be included. Citizen scientists should be informed on the scientific goals of the initiative, their role in the process, and what are the benefits and gains in participating in the initiative. The E stands for engage, so make a continuous effort to maintain citizen scientists participating in the initiative. provide them with feedback on their tasks, produce training materials, and deliver proper training if you want good quality data collection. Value the process and not only the scientific data, and allow citizen scientists to feel they are part of a group. The second E stands for evaluate. So collaborate with social scientists and continuously evaluate the initiative. Provide clear information in the publications on the methods used for participant assessment so that other initiatives can use similar and comparable methods. And finally, the R stands for respect and report. So acknowledge the participants, be open to their feedback, provide access to data and results, and be more transparent in all reportings of the initiative, explicitly reporting how citizen scientists were engaged and evaluated. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia.
Thank you, Natalia.
With all this presentation, we can see that citizen science is not just collecting data, but it has a much broader view. So the next speaker, there are two speakers, is Hans Peter and his student, if you are ready. The floor is yours.
Okay, so I hope you can see my slides.
Yes, we can see.
Good. So what we would like to talk about is a topic that we have been working on, and that's how to facilitate citizen science projects that are embedded in a community by having a best practice for citizen science certification. Several of the speakers have been addressing the problems of quality, and we think that having a citizen science certification is something that can help us with doing this. We are doing this actually in the framework of a virtual community center, which we are developing based on our interactions with state agencies, with federal agencies in the United States, and also with non-governmental agencies who all would like to improve the link between what they are doing and the public. And we are thinking about this virtual community center in the sense that it can be a local community geographically, it can be a neighborhood, a city, it can also be a community of practice. It is not limited to a community that's physically in the same region. So we have a number of organizations that are participating in a pilot project. And what we are doing here is we explore new ways to improve the public literacy in information literacy, risk literacy, sustainability literacy. And I think information literacy is really a very important one when we look at how very often people are misled with fake information and cannot really distinguish this. And so they should learn about the activities that are going on in their community. They should be connected to the organizations that are acting in their community. And what we are doing is fundamentally different from the social media that we have today, from Facebook, Apple, Google, and others, because it is community focused. It's not trying to elevate the individual. We will not have a like button where you can like and like and like or dislike people. It is a tool and not aiming at manipulation like the social media in most of the cases do. We do, for example, not use notifications. We do not give recommendations. We are not trying to put people in a certain direction or create polarization. And very important, we do not collect any data, sell or exploit data of the people, or try to sell user time like Facebook does. So we are very, very different. You could call it a community book and not a Facebook. So it's a very different approach. And we have started in the pilot project with, for example, an exhibition hall where the organizations that are participating can present what they are doing and have visitors come to their exhibition booth. We have a classroom where we work with schools, for example, and also other institutions, learning in retirement, for example, where people can go and take classes, listen to lectures, and have educational videos. We have a space to meet experts and talk to them and have an interaction with the experts. We also are building an environmental gym where people can exercise their environmental knowledge, their knowledge about sustainability, and increase their knowledge in the same way as we can increase our muscles in the gym. And we are developing a place for citizen science project and citizen scientists. A chat room is something that the organizations required us to build in. And actually, when we were working with the organizations, they also wanted a newsroom, including the possibility to run local newspapers, because they're disappearing in some countries, particularly here in the United States, and organize community events. So that's the big framework in which the citizen science is embedded. And for citizen science, we are looking right now at four things. One is citizen science certification. The other one is places for citizen science to participate. Then for citizen science to actually initiate their own projects, so that they're not just helping us to monitor something, but they can initiate something. And for researchers to find support from citizen scientists to solicit this. And Dan is now going to talk a little bit more about our thoughts about citizen science certification and all of the other things. Dan?
Thank you, Hans-Peter. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is how our project will help equip citizen scientists to do actual citizen science. And one way we envision doing this is offering educational materials and courses on scientific literacy, possibly also holding a certification course. And one program we looked at that is doing something similar is the Marine Citizen Science course offered by the Ocean Sanctuaries Organization. How this differs is that the Marine Citizen Science course appears to focus more on marine science and species identification, whereas our program will hopefully focus more on actual citizen science, promoting scientific literacy and scientific modes of thinking. So more of a general, well-rounded background versus a specialized naturalist viewpoint. The Marine Citizen Science course appears more focused on preparing individuals for data collection, whereas we envision our program as preparing individuals to actually perform science and be able to think in a scientific manner. One way that this could be accomplished is by a potential partnering with Old Dominion University, which is the host organization for Hans-Peter and myself. We see them potentially offering citizen science as a minor or graduate certification in the future. We could also potentially envision them offering it as an online class through their system. The next aspect I'm going to talk about is the vetting of citizen scientists, ensuring that the individuals participating in the program have absorbed the educational aspect and are ready to actually perform citizen science. So two vetting programs we looked at are the programs used by the Virginia Master Naturalist Program, which has a process for assessing trainees that includes quizzing them on topics such as scientific process, scientific ethics, the method, and proper scientific documentation, which are all very necessary skills for citizen scientists to possess as they work on different projects. University College London also has a 30-minute citizen science course that's focused on actually constructing and executing projects as a citizen science. This vetting process, once we've devised the questions for it, it could be performed by other citizen scientists that have already been certified. It could also be performed by trusted experts from the various institutions that are participating in the Virtual Community Center program that are working alongside us. The last aspect that I'd like to talk about is how the Virtual Community Center will enable the community to act as citizen scientists. And one way we envision them doing that is allowing them a platform to devise and act upon their own projects once they have received the necessary training to perform citizen science. And through our program, we envision them being able to obtain the past research into the topic and resources that they need including other citizen scientists volunteers that are interested in their project topic. Once a citizen scientist has identified a testable question that they'd like to work on in their area, they'll have access to experts to verify that this is a good project to work on, perhaps improve upon the methodology proposed to pursue it, and approve these research topics. Also envision the citizen scientists participating in this program as supporting trusted experts from the various organizations taking part in the virtual community center in existing research projects. So citizen scientists that are interested in a certain aspect of research from a host organization can work alongside experts in the field to execute that project. So that's a little bit about the vision that we have for this project. Thank you.
Yes, and so we would like to, or we hope that in the following discussion today, we get some ideas in direction of a best practice for both the certification, but also for the citizen science projects.
Okay, thanks a lot. So we will move to the next part of the session, which is open for the discussion. Alex, you want to coordinate this?
Yes, Yannick, thank you very much. I'm opening here a file with that's not working. I don't know why, but the idea is to share the two main questions, if we may call them as this, okay, so that we can guide the discussion. We planned here. It's here. Sorry. Here. So before, can you see this?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, thank you. And before that, I would like to thanks a lot our presenters and the different views and insights they brought to the discussion. So the idea is that we see room for improvements of citizen science in terms of marine litter. The word improvement may mean several things. So the idea is to synthesize in this discussion in about 1 hour what could be or would be the major concerns, considerations, and developments for citizen science monitoring of marine litter. For example, data quality, ethical aspects, data user and users, and scientific questions, as we were already mentioning in the talks. And there is a very important question that Anne Bowser brought to us, that to what degree is it possible to standardize citizen science monitoring? So this would be kind of starting or overarching questions that could guide us in this discussion. So the main idea is to have a list of important aspects that we need to pay attention and foster and develop in the future, so that we will have in the next years, if we may say that, a better citizen science for marine litter than we have today in all aspects. That is the challenge we have right now. So saying this, I would like to open the floor to the speakers and to the audience, so that we may share some thoughts in the chat or speaking, or whatever you prefer, so that we may, me and Yannick will capture the ideas and the inputs of you regarding the development needed to improve citizen science regarding marine litter. So the floor is open. Mattis, would you like to complement to start as you appear here?
happy to answer any questions if anyone has any, but I just wanted to pop on and yeah.
So there is a comment here from Thais. I feel that the tiered approach is one of the key for standardization.
Can I elaborate?
Yes, Thais, please, go ahead.
The tiered approach presented by the Earth Challenge 2020 that Matt presented was a great presentation. Thank you so much. I feel that's one of the keys, and it's often discussed because it allows for different groups that have different time constraints and different resources to all collect some data in some level, some degree of standardization. What I found with lots of some marinated projects is that they often complain about too much things to record, and the thing with my concern with tiered approaches is that different groups will have different ideas of what is a necessary tier. Well, what are the levels that we would need to have an adequate approach?
Okay.
I think,
Sorry, go
I'm
ahead.
trying to capture the idea here. I'm typing and trying to capture the idea. So if we could share this role, Yannick.
Yes, no problem.
Okay. Any other contribution?
Who else is here?
I think Gilbert raised a hand to talk.
Yes. Thank you, Natalia. Gilbert, please.
Yeah, if I have to participate, I'm Gilbert. When I talk about the major concerns on citizen science, mostly because they also have, I'm doing a project on citizen science on a mobile app which we have developed already. And one perspective is always about the interests of the citizens themselves. How really you can marry the science part and of course the interest of the citizen themselves, being that also they have their own activities, their own economic activities that keeps them busy. So that becomes really another one of the biggest challenge. And another thing also is about managing expectations. Some people will want something in return. Sometimes you'll go back to them, you train them, and then after that, you'll find there is a lot of calls, or what do I stand to benefit out of this? So to me, those are two of the challenges which I've met on the ground.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Gilbert. Another insight or contribution to this discussion?
Can I comment on what Gilbert just said?
Please, Natalia, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with him about what are the motivations for citizens to participate in initiatives, considering people have other tasks in their day-to-day lives. So I think the inclusion of the citizen dimension is really important regarding these aspects of how participating in citizen science can contribute to policies, their day-to-day lives. So I think that thinking about co-creation is an important aspect that marine litter initiatives may having to concern, like asking people what do they think would be important to ask or to answer regarding marine litter, how marine litter affects their day-to-day lives. So this scientific literacy and environmental educational aspect of citizen science is really, really important.
Thank you, Natalia.
Thank you. It's interesting, Yannick, if you allow me, when we see the Metis approach in a way to have a big or a global view of marine litter based on citizen science, mostly cleanups, and we see the effort of Martin and his team regarding Científicos de la Basura, which is now in all Spanish-speaking countries in the Pacific. Please, Martin, correct me if I'm wrong. I would like to ask Martin to bring some insights on the difficulties to expand such a project into different countries, because this would be a very important not yet, but difficulty to get global, and then including people from different languages and so on. Could you please share some thoughts, Martin, about the challenges to expand Científicos de la Basura to the other countries?
Yes. Okay. Let's see. Thanks, Alex, for passing me the microphone. So you took me a little bit by surprise. I was just trying to take a little bit of breakfast while nobody was looking, and so now you put me on the spot here. Yeah, no. First of all, one thing I would like to say is what I very much liked about all the presentations is really the focus on the citizens. Because after listening a little bit to the previous session, I was a little bit worried that we are very much thinking about monitoring. How can we get high quality data, which of course is very important, but the citizens are, like, if we talk about citizen science, a very essential role. I do also think it's a little bit unfortunate that many of the big, monitoring people that I saw in the previous session, with remote sensing and all this stuff, are not here anymore. Because I think this dialogue between the need of scientists who want, just like you say, data from all over the world, and the interests of the citizens, this dialogue is what we really need. Now we are here all probably mostly people who are actually already working in citizen science or have a very strong interest in citizen science. And as we can hear from the interventions and from the presentations, a very strong focus on the citizens. But the people who want the data, in a way, the scientists who want large-scale data that you are pointing at, maybe are not here anymore. So I think this dialogue is very, very important. The dialogue between the citizens, we are also citizens, but with the professional scientists, who plays the science game for a long time. So the challenges, of course, are some of the ones that have been mentioned already. How to get the interest not only of the citizens, but also of other people, who can support these initiatives, because it takes a lot of effort and time. And anybody who really has been running a citizen science project knows that this requires a lot of effort because of what we have been talking about. Citizens are equal members of the story. They have a lot of questions, they have a lot of interests, they of concerns, of course, also, and needs, and you need to attend those. So like, to answer your question, I think the dialogue is very important. You need to know what your citizens are interested in. You also need to attend their needs, and of course also you need to have a rough idea of what you want, what you really want. Like, for example, I would always say, you know, if we just want those data that we use and that we use to respond our scientific questions, maybe it would be easier if we just if we just go out as a scientific team and support a scientific team that goes out and samples all those beaches, you know, because as I say, attending the citizen scientist side, their needs requires a lot of money. However, and here's my conviction in this, and that's why I'm here and why I'm in this session and why I'm still working and will continue to work on this citizen. We see that, and we can see it right now almost every day, how important it is that people, normal people like you and me, understand how science works and how scientific progress works. You know, we are in the midst of pandemics, and we all, maybe who are here, have a rough idea, you know, that, for example, this vaccine, what roughly it will take to develop a vaccine. But many people don't, because they think, well, you know, you just go into your lab and the next day you have the vaccine. No, it's not going to work like that. And it's an iterative process. And so I think one of the important values of citizen science is that citizens can, you know, they don't have to become scientists, but they participate actively in the process, they learn about the process, and they roughly understand how science works. That's absolutely fundamental. You know, we now see in the last months how actually decisions are being made without scientific evidence. You know, we have a total disconnect between decision making and science. Scientific evidence in many parts of the world, we see it all over. We don't have to look very far, you know. And this is because the citizens also have been disconnected from the basic understanding of the scientific process, you know, from the importance of scientific evidence. And I think this is a very important role of citizen science, having people engaged in this process and become active partners of this. Now, then there's the other interest of having large-scale data. And if you ask me specifically about how to expand, how to consolidate, you know, takes a lot of effort and involvement of people. You need to find support so that things can continue to go on. And maybe I stop here for a moment and have a sip of coffee, and then maybe later I can try to continue to respond to your question. Hopefully I gave a little bit of answer of what you were asking for. The dialogue between the professional scientists, you know, who want the data. And maybe the last thing I want to say is, of course, I think we all would love like the co-created projects. But actually, if you ask many of the citizens, they are not so interested in this. They are sometimes very happy of just supporting a little bit, you know. People are happy of contributing data and feeling to be part of it, as long as they get some feedback back. as long as they are being taken serious and they can feel that they are being taken serious. And as long as they can feel that they contribute something, they are actually very happy to share their time sometimes and contribute data, and they don't have any more intentions. So contributory science or being data collectors is not necessarily bad. People sometimes are actually very happy to be just that, data collector, collect a few data here and there, being acknowledged and learn a little bit, and that's it. They don't want more. So, so I just wanted to say that if you are concerned about that, make sure that your citizens really want more, because sometimes they don't want more, and then it's very hard to get more. So that.
Thank you, Martin. Very clear, very interesting. I think I see Hans-Peter wants to make a comment.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to say that, Martin, what you said is really to the point. And I would like to emphasize a little bit more the role of citizen science in a way actually transforming society a little bit into a direction that we have more scientific literacy in society. So it's not the main goal for us in our citizen science activities is not to get data, because somebody who helps us to create, a lab assistant is not what we want. We want really to enable people to participate in looking at problems they have in their community through the eyes of science. And we are driven a little bit by, what knowledge really is and how to make your knowledge that we create usable. And I often go back to Plato's definition that knowledge is a justified true belief. So we can create statements that are justified and true, but we have to make sure that they are believed in society. So we are sharing knowledge with society, and believing comes after trust. So if society has a trust in our methodologies and a trust in understanding what we are doing, then they will believe our justified and true statements. Then they will believe them and will use them. And so for me, getting the citizen science project embedded into a community, be it a community of practice or be it an actual community out in the real world, is very important. And we have had now 4 years experience with an educational program at undergraduate and graduate level in sustainability and conservation leadership. And each of our students has to do 3 case studies in sustainability. And all of them involve participatory modeling with the stakeholders. So co-creation of knowledge is something I think is very important to create the trust in society in the knowledge we create. And citizen science projects are a very important tool for creating the scientific literacy that Dan Martin was talking about a little bit earlier, that we need to actually connect better to society. And then society will also better connect to, for example, in the United States, the information that comes from federal agencies. They will understand that this knowledge has been created in a way they have created knowledge in their own community. So I think we have to really broaden our mind and not degrade citizen scientists to somebody who helps us to get some nice data and complain about the data quality because they don't fully understand the methodology. We really need to think about how can we educate and help those people who are interested. And my experience, our experience is most of the people are very interested. They are blocked because they don't know what they actually want to do. And if we help them to come to start, then I think we get a really different society. That's all I wanted to say.
Very good, very good. Perhaps we don't need citizen science to support marine litter, but to use marine litter as a strategy to promote citizen science and change society. So it's a change of paradigm in terms of using citizen science. It's interesting to capture that. There is a mention here from René that there are some remote sensing people still in the room, so the message is being delivered. And we have here comments from Thais and Carla. Would you like to share your thoughts? And then Thomas and Gilbert in the sequence. Thais and Carla, please.
Who wants to go first?
Go you. You and then Carla.
You're quicker,
Okay.
go.
Okay. I don't know which comment you're talking anymore. Okay, I get it.
I feel that no, the other one. Lots of projects rely on the desire to help science to attract participants. This one.
Oh yes. This is lots of projects that, at least the ones I know, and I've been looking to a lot of projects. They seem to rely on the desire to help science, to help the environment, to help combat material litter, to engage people, or to have a clean beach, to have a cleaner environment in general, which are very noble and very relatable desires that most people have. So they are very good for mass engagement. But at the same time, it's a limited a limited view of community desires can be. They can be like improvement of their area. Some projects use that, like using policy and having clearer goals in policy. Or they could have be engaging in science. Oh, did you want to be a scientist in school and never panned out? Why? Let's try a little bit of that. And I feel that a lot of the view, the current view on marine litter citizen science seems to reduce the citizens' desires to, oh, let's help out scientists, which is good, but it's not everything. And also ties up with what Martin said, that people sometimes they just want to be data, just collect some data, but they want to be acknowledged. It ties back a lot of what people said later after that. Okay.
Guys, thank you. Carla, please.
Okay. So I was just making a point here that Gilbert complimented very well, that in some places in the world, participating in cleanups, for example, can be looked as something that's a bit stigmatized. So in some places, people believe that it's something below them. They don't want to get their hands dirty. It takes a lot of effort to get people on board with the action of doing a monitoring program as a citizen science, or a cleanup event as an awareness program or something like that. So this is something to consider when we're thinking of standardizations in a global perspective. And also it could be a big obstacle when involving some populations, some groups of people. Not necessarily the whole country will be against a cleanup, but sometimes you'll find that you'll have, well, I suppose this is true to most citizen science projects, you have people who are more engaged than others. But if you think about, for example, citizen science for bird watching, which is something very traditional, it's maybe more appealing and attractive to go out in nature and be looking at birds and taking notes of that, instead of going out in nature and, like I said, getting your hands dirty and collecting litter. So if the person is engaged in the idea of, they see why this is important, they see that they're generating data, they understand that every piece of trash that they remove from the environment is one less piece of plastic, for example, that could be ingested by one of the birds that someone will be doing a bird watching program on. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here in this sense, that we all know that this is important, but I feel that this is something that has to be taken into consideration when we're thinking of best practices from a global perspective.
Thank you, Carla. Before Thomas, Gilbert, would you like to complement, since you in the chat complimented Carla?
Yes, actually, what Carla said is very true. This element of stigmatization in citizen is usually a bottleneck. There's an experience which I had sometimes when I was in the field, and you'll find even when you're engaging your scientist, even your fellow researcher refers like, how long are you taking to just collect trash? So you find such kind of comments, there is that element people have not to be associated with that. And some people don't see that you're really collecting data, but they are just seeing that trash. So you'll find that also that is really one of the greatest stumbling block. Another thing which I can add is about the element of the way we perceive the citizen themselves when they're collecting this. We really don't give them the basic protective gear more so in developing countries, things like gloves. You'll find that people want to engage these people, get the data, but really they don't care about their welfare, you know? Giving them something like a glove, it's not very expensive, but it's something which can really motivate them, that you really care. And then another thing which I can add, it's also about the element of how they feel when you come back to them. Sometimes when you come back to the community the first time, you're engaging with them, they are so much expectant, they really expect a lot. Then you go back because you've gotten your data, you keep quiet for some time, and then you go back again. So they will look at you and they think that you are really benefiting from them, you are using them. And the reception the second time is not very good. So those are the kind of things which actually we as scientists, we need to look into. We have to go into their shoes. And sometimes we should also be the citizen scientists ourselves before they are, so that we can be able to understand them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Gilbert. Well noted. There is a comment from Thomas Myers, and then I will give the floor to Peter Florence. I will read the comments from Thomas. It also comes back to our power issue and discussions from yesterday. The scientific programs will never have enough sampling points to overcome the variability and achieve the statistical power to detect small changes. This can be solved by more funding for dedicated scientific surveys, more time, or by introducing citizen science to get large data sets as a surplus on top of extra data from citizens. You also get outreach done. Any reaction, Yannick, or anybody else? It seems an opportunity to improve the way we describe and evaluate the environment, improving the number of sample size, the sample size, in fact. Go, Yannick.
Yeah, I can make a quick comment on this. There are a lot of comments regarding the feedback of citizen and the integration of citizen in the projects. And there is an issue on the ethical of the way to use this manpower, in fact. And I think when we write a project to be submitted for a proposal to be submitted for funding, it should be also integrated in the way the project is evaluated, apart on the if the project is using citizen science. What it should be integrated is an ethical part on the way citizen science will be used and what will be the feedback and how the citizen will be integrated, in fact, in the project. This is my suggestion.
Yes, thank you. So we would like to give the floor to Peter Florence. I don't know if I say Peter Florence or Florence Peter, which is as it's written here.
Peter Florence.
Peter Florence.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for giving me this floor. I would like to explain a bit things that we have been doing, by the way, in my country, in my community. So we are so far succeeded somehow in integrating science with community and how community responding to us. So I think this is, yeah, his nice presentation for me. I will give this according the way we have been doing in the community, particularly in marine litters. So here, We have been doing weekly cleanup with the community. We have been doing community bazaars, and then I will explain a bit on city and the ocean. Next. Sorry, a bit. And then in our community, we have been trying a lot of time first before doing cleanup or before telling people now we are going to make our cleanup. We do community bazaar several times, like in a week, by using our organization. By the way, is standing back on us, like giving us, sponsoring us, and going to the community and try to teach them. We are organizing village leader, community groups, leaders. And now we are going to do this cleanup. And when we are dealing with village leader, we tell them on how to gather people. We tell the community group leaders on how to gather people in their compound so that we can do a bit good cleanup. And then village leader will give us an area where we will put our learning staff, that we have our radio, we have our mic, and then we just voice up telling the people on how we do. By the way, we explain a bit what is the real effect of slowing these trashes. We have well described placards in detail showing different effects of these plastic litters, particularly to birds, to cows, to goats, to marine organisms. So when we come to Saturday, where the Saturday in Tanzania, it is a day that have been selected by the government for all Tanzanians to do clean up in their compound every Saturday, one day in the week. So we found that it is very easy for us. It is very easy for us to make people clean the environment. So when we go there, we go with different cleaning up tools like gloves, brooms, bags where we are going to collect it, meaning we put the trash. And then at the end of the cleanup, there are different dumping litters dumping truck, waste truck will be coming to collect those waste. So, and apart from this community bazaar, again, we have been providing education to primary school and secondary schools, particularly on marine litters, solid waste plastic. So we tell them how these plastics and another solid waste are dangerous to our health, to our environment, even to be in injuries. So you find these small boys and girls, they are going and telling their parents how their effects. So when we go to every Sunday, we find everything goes smooth. The community is coming to engage with us. So yeah, it's like that. Another things that we go with incentives is like garbage bags. We give them different bags, every community, because this is supplied by, in our organization called Nipepagiro, we are getting support from these plastic producers. So they give us the bags where when we go to the community, we supply them with so that the community, they don't get a problem where to discard their plastic issues. So we teach them on how to sort things, that one bag is for this plastic, for box, for according to waste produced from their household. So again, we go with scientific evidence, as I told you earlier, that we go with placards that showing different things that have happened to different organisms, particularly the marine organisms, even in terrestrial like goat and cow. That is what we have been doing, and we are finding something going smoothly in cleaning up the community. And they don't need things like, oh, we need money, we need water, because they say, oh, you're coming to help us. How imagine how good heart you are. So from all the way there, you are coming to the community to help us. So we found that the community, because they have been suffering from this waste big time, several times, they found it easy for us to help them, and it is easy for them again to help us. At the same time, we integrate with our science. At the same time, they understand the effect of not collecting the waste, and they understand well what is the benefit of collecting the waste, or putting the environment clean. Yeah, that is what we have been doing. So that I wanted to share what you have been doing in the community, particularly in community science with the environment, in marine litters, things like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. Would like to make any comment, Yannick, in reaction to Peter?
About the what we discussed about the ethical concern. In fact, my point was to say that respect individuals was an ethical concern, and in any proposal that is submitted for funding, it's important to have this somewhere. If we plan to use citizen science manpower to collect data or even to clean beaches or other areas, is to have a part showing that we respect these individuals and we provide enough feedback for them to feel integrated in the project. That was my point.
Yes, yes. Especially as Peter said, if they are volunteers, it's important to respect and to treat citizen scientists as we would treat other scientists, as Kim said here, Kim Parsons. You don't need to ask. We are not supposed to ask people to do things that a scientist will not do. If scientists would use gloves, for example, citizen scientists should use gloves. For example, it will mean respect to them. No? Is it correct, Kim? Is that the message you would like to deliver?
Yes, that's exactly what it is, Alexander. I think that, just showing that respect and the consistency. And there was a really good comment afterwards talking about, from Gilbert, talking about the training of volunteers being so important and conveying those objectives and the methods and any kind of controls, like when you start looking at finer scale sampling for some of the microplastics, and what kind of controls you may want to have or cautions in your collection methodology, then considering the methods that the citizen scientists will be using as well should be clearly conveyed, so that any biases or things like that are going to be obvious in the downstream data analysis as well.
Right, thank you. I'm not sure who is next here. I think René did a comment on Peter, saying that Peter did a presentation in the plenary and his presentation can be made available. Okay.
Yes,
nice presentation.
It was a nice presentation, especially about the cleaning of the beach in Tanzania and the group or association Nige Fagio. I mean, something that he showed in the presentation. It's very interesting in Tanzania. So that was just to add something to what he said, and also that as a scientist, about 30 years ago, I created a small group here with young kids to clean the beaches, or it's not exactly beaches, in creeks in Brittany, and we found a lot of plastics, you know, and so we had the year where we had the the yellow caps for the plastic bottles, and the year where we had the shoes, 1 foot, the right foot, for instance, for plastic shoes that you put on the beach, you know, we say flip-flop, etc. That's so. As scientists, we also sometimes participate in such things like cleaning beaches.
Good point. And there is a comment here, if I'm not losing anybody, from Metis. Metis would like to talk.
Oh yeah, I missed this one. Okay. I missed her. Yep.
The only part that I wanted to talk about was just building off of the things that Gilbert has said as well. The idea that a lot of citizen science projects are potentially not scientist or science collection driven first. It's people that want to, or some are many like cleanups that they want to do, and they're not necessarily collecting that data. And so when we engage with different organizations that are not necessarily recording that data, we could also build in some of those concerns in the briefing and the ethical issues. But many times the organizations are not necessarily connected with that integrated data collection process, and maybe there's a possibility or an opportunity to communicate with them.
Yannick made comment about that, but in Europe, there is a directive at the European level, and there are, when you collect plastics or debris on the beach, you can categorize, classify them according to this description. And the different groups doing that, doing beach cleaning, they talk together, and they have their own Facebook group, and sometimes, and we follow that. I mean, Christophe Maes, for instance, or Yannick also. And sometimes they put pictures on the Facebook group, and they say, okay, we found that somebody knows what it is, and it's very interesting, very helpful, especially when you try to track where this kind of whatever you find is coming from. It can come, I mean, very often for us in Brittany, in the west part of Europe, it comes from the other side of the pond, and so Canada or United States, and so it's very interesting to see the picture, and then so the groups, even if it is not formal, to have them addressing the scientist, or conversely, see they are known, they know each other. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you, René.
Sorry, I was capturing the ideas here. As far as I can see, sorry if I am missing any comment here. There is no additional comment other than those that were already captured or mentioned here, or reinforcing things that were said. Am I correct? Did I miss anybody? If I miss it, please.
May I just make a comment?
Yes, Natalia, go ahead.
Yeah, I think lots of talks here talked about the respect. We have I think a huge opportunity to emphasize the inclusion of the citizen scientists in more than one step of the scientific process. And I think that when citizen scientists are aware of how the data they are collecting are going to be used, what the purpose of these initiatives, I think they will want to be engaged for longer periods. I think that a lot of problems in the literature regarding citizen science is related to the quality of the data, So if citizens are properly trained, so if they are included in the process, probably they will produce good quality data. And about their engagement, so people are happy to collect data, but generally for a short period, and they go and do other stuff. So why is that happening? Maybe engagement is also related to the fact that the citizens are not really aware of the use of the data they are producing. So I think respect is related to all of this. And when I talk about co-creation, I mean the inclusion of the citizens and in different steps of the scientific process. And it's completely related to scientific literacy, scientific education. So I think the main idea that the main purpose that we are discussing here is to promote the science aspect and the educational aspect of citizen science. It's very urgent. So from the talks of the colleagues, I think this is a great thing to think about. So.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Natalia.
Natalia. Thank you.
I think there is a question from Gilbert.
A question. Would you like to talk, Gilbert, please? Or I read? I will read. What about, Gilbert is asking, what about falsification of data by citizen scientists, especially where mobile app is utilized for data collection? How can these be handled? Any idea, any reaction?
Yeah, I have a few thoughts about that. I think the question actually connects directly with what Natalia was just saying, because she was explaining how important it is that the citizen scientists, volunteers, are aware of the program, are an integral part of the program. And so this educational aspect, this participatory aspect, this real engagement in the science can be a first step to prevent that somebody is gonna abuse, for example, applications. I'm also personally very skeptical about applications that are just out there without any connection of a program that engages with the citizen scientists. If you just put out an application by itself without much of a contact of a real person, then I would say this could lend itself to abuse, just like what we were saying, or what Hans-Peter was mentioning about social media and all that stuff that generates opinion and stuff like that. So I think the connection and the communication with the participants is one thing. So you could have a check on that not everybody who just is able to download the application on the cell phone can also submit data. So you could have the first step, okay, you can become part, you can download it, but then you need to become part of a community and engage meaningfully within that community. That could be a first step to prevent falsification. The next step then is that you not just type in numbers, but every number that is typed in needs also to be, backed up by some evidence. Just like, for example, you probably all know the platform iNaturalist, where you can say, oh, I saw this bird outside my window, and that's not enough. You also have to submit a photograph that shows this bird outside of your window. Of course, there is ways to get around, and if you really have a strong intention to make false reports, you probably can do it. but at least there is these steps. So I would say one important way of preventing falsification is having to have some evidence in form of a photograph or some evidence in form of other, data or confirmation.
You can ask the bird to give his passport as well. That's,
sorry,
good.
what?
You can ask the bird to show his passport as well. In some countries now, it's
yeah.
that. United States, for instance, not even the bird, we have to show the passport. I would like to intervene. Sorry, I'm kidding, but I've been connected for 4 hours. So, one of the purpose of this working group and the whole different sessions, as was shown in a plenary, which was very late, so many people missed that, is the idea to create what we call a platform. And the platform, there are different meanings for platform. And that's not a platform for collecting data from sensors. It's a platform to, let's say, supervising and possibly processing all the kind of data entering the platform. And the platform, the idea is to have that under the auspices of UNEP, United Nations Environmental Program, and it includes somewhere also the possibility to develop an application put on a smartphone, but blessed, stamped, whatever the name is, by UNEP, and in order to help the citizen science when collecting data, and if there is interesting or once you have categorized the debris to input that in a database, the same way we input in a database data from satellite or other kind of sensors. When we do that, whatever the data is, we must have what you call a vetting process, which is calibration or whatever the name is, but something that says, okay, this is for real. I took a picture of that at this place, and then we have to for the citizen data to have some kind of faith in what they are producing as data. But it's a global thing. It's not so. These different groups, they talk together, and the citizen data is data as good as any for me.
So we have some additional comments. Thank you, René, for clarifying. There are some comments about falsification from Hans-Peter and from Pierluigi. Also, would you like to share, people? There is a parallel discussion between Pierluigi and Hans-Peter.
I can say.
Please, Pierluigi.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead first.
In terms of, like, again, the recommendations in the working group report to the OBPS, I think that's a very good section to have. Some measure for detecting falsification or detecting unusual data patterns. They could be true, right? But it's a way of flagging it, one for the curators of the system, but also for the other citizen scientists, because many of them also, they tend to self-police. We see this in the bird watching community or so, even an iNaturalist, feels like, wait, this sounds really fishy. This can't be. And so they'll raise it, they'll flag it. So I think that's a great little thing to note for a best practice specification. Over to you, Hans-Peter.
Well, I think that we really are facing this challenge that people see the world very differently. Each of us sees the world in a different way. We see only a part of it. We have a perception. And if René and I go walk down the street for 10 minutes and then have to report what we saw, I'm quite sure we saw very different things. We noticed very different things. And so if you use a citizen scientist, even if you do train them, if you do give them a lot of information, they may look at a beach in a different way. They will notice something else. Maybe, they see a dead bird and that's the only thing they're seeing, and somebody else is not worried about the dead bird and is seeing the plastic. I think we really have a challenge here to build the perceived world into the processing of the data that comes from a human sensor.
Thank you. Any reaction? If not, Thais has a question.
I just asked if anyone knows like a citizen science app being target for maybe systematic or massive falsification, because I was going to type right now. For example, marine debris tracker exists for a decade, I think now, about a decade. And for most of their existence, they didn't require pictures of the litter you collected. And now I'm generally thinking like a troll horde, like coordinated attacks, like they happen on social media or in the internet all the time. They could really wreck like data collection for an app or an online collecting database.
Yes.
So there are some reactions here from Natalia.
Carla has a good.
Yes.
I was answering Thais just before she went on with her mic, and I've seen this example given in a recent conference. It was an app for marine debris that were collected by fishermen, and they would receive financial benefits for the amount of litter that they brought back or the reports that they were given. So they were given cell phones, so smartphones, for them to have the app, for example. So that was one immediate like benefit that they had. And they also had reduced taxes over their catch and other things like this. So there was a major concern about people making up reports, and there was only one case that they had reported of a fisherman who was giving in pictures of marine debris that were not from his own collection. So he either like Googled marine debris fisherman, and then he used these images into the app and things like that. So when there's a reward system, this is something that has to be really, really carefully thought of. It's a way to engage people, but it's also a trap in some ways.
Thank you. I'd like to make a comment, Alex, on the falsification. I think it's raising the point of integration of people in the projects. And to me, if you respect the individuals, they will probably respect the data as well. But that's maybe another way of thinking.
Yes, I think there is this issue we are discussing relates to the problem of noise in the data. As we were mentioning in the previous session, and yesterday Thomas was mentioning the variability of the inherent variability of data. So perhaps when we talk about data provided or produced by citizen scientists, we may also have a kind of inherent variability or noise. The point is this variability or noise so big that it prevents testing the hypothesis or evaluating the issue we want to evaluate? Because if we have a noise that is so big in comparison to the phenomena we want to describe, like to find hotspots or see trends in specific types of litter, or see or evaluate the effectiveness of a public policy, citizen science would not be appropriate in terms of the way we were discussing before of using data. No? But if the noise, the inherent noise, is not so big, we can live with this noise. and because we know the size of this noise, and we know that this will not prevent the use of the data. Obviously, taking all the considerations of training, calibrating, integrating, engaging, and so on. But there is a remnant error or noise that we will not be able to solve. And this is an important thing to consider in this context. I mean.
Thank you, Alex.
Okay. I'm not seeing any other comment or question other than the ones we already mentioned here.
Yeah.
Anybody else would like to take the floor to make a comment? Because we have 4 minutes left, isn't it, René? 4 minutes?
Oh, yeah, we have 5 minutes. But I mean, the room is always open, so it's we decide when we want. I mean, there is no system shutting down. You know, like you have 1 more minute. No, it's open, so we can go over if we want. We have. Okay, I will have to wait for Arthur because he has the upper end on the recording, and he had to step up out at least for 20 minutes. So he's going back now.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
So perhaps we might ask if there is any burning issue that we are missing in the discussion up to now, because if there is, we need to capture it. So I ask everybody to think about that.
Well, if I can say something, Hans-Peter, then I would say that I would be very interested to hear from the community who is together here right now, whether this idea of developing a certification for scientists, citizen scientists, makes sense to most of you, or whether you think we are going a little bit too far with this.
Good point, Hans-Peter. Any reaction?
I think this is a question we can open for vote if you want to vote.
I mean, you can also leave that as an open question for the working group report, in the sense that, you know, that's part of the purpose of the outreach of the OBPS, to say what is the best practice for ensuring quality and celebrating champions in the community. And I'm sure that the birder community or others in the biodiversity standards groups have thought about this. And please post that on your Slack channel or wherever you're communicating. And please put it in your working group report, because that's something we can pick up.
Yeah.
So I would have a question to Hans-Peter. So you are thinking more about the citizen scientist volunteers for this certification, right? But what about citizen science coordinators?
Well, actually, we are thinking in both directions, you know, that we want to enable people to be engaged in the community, looking at problems they have in the community. We work, for example, with high schools in this direction, that students do case studies on problems that they have in their community. And by doing this, they understand sustainability a little bit better. And we think, for example, one option would be that Old Dominion has a requirement that every student, the non-scientist students, takes 2 courses in science. But these courses in science are normally very focused on a scientific discipline. So we think we will propose to our university to have a minor in citizen science, meeting the requirement that a psychology student or a literature student has to do or can do to satisfy the science requirement. So we would be looking at getting more and more students qualified to be later in their life in a citizen science project. We are thinking about many different ways here. Of course, we want also to offer this for older people who are people who are already working, that they can come in and do this. But the question is, what should be the curriculum for this citizen science training and the certification?
I think a certification is very good in terms of for the project coordinators, maybe to assure data quality, but it it is also very important to acknowledge citizen scientists. Well, you participated in a course, you trained, and you are recognized. So it's a recognition. But I think it's maybe it shouldn't be used to discriminate between those that would like to collaborate and did not participate in the training course. So everyone should feel included in the process, but maybe the data produced by those who participated in a certificate course should be considered for quality concerns regarding the project maybe. So that's my only concern about certification, that people do not feel excluded in participating because they couldn't do the course.
Yeah, and I think, we could, for example, offer that those who are certified are mentors to others. So I think the participation and the being inclusive is very, very important. And we have to find ways, best practices again, can we actually ensure this, that everybody can participate, but at the same time, we get more scientific literacy in society.
Yeah.
Good point. So, Yannick, I hand over to you.
Okay, so unless there is any burning issue or burning questions or comments, maybe we can close the session.
It's up to you when you want. And
okay, thanks a lot to everybody. It was a fantastic presentation and a great discussion. So we have plenty of things to put in our report. So that's very nice. Thanks a lot.
Thank you everybody. Thank you for the speeches. Thank you for the participation, the exciting discussion, and the important points raised here that were not necessarily captured before. So I think it's, well, they are welcome and we will consider in the reports. Thank you very much.
Okay, and don't forget to look at the motion design movie that we made. I'm making lots of publicity for it, especially that I am the one who wrote it. It's in
okay.
Somewhere. I'll send it. Yeah, okay. There are two links. One the link that Hans-Peter doesn't like because it's on YouTube, and the other one is on the Geo Blue Planet. And well, by the way, Hans-Peter, I should put your website as well, because or you can do it, and the link to from your website as well. Sorry.
I can do that, yes.
Okay, so send it to everyone. And that was a very great discussion. Again, thank you for all the presenters. That was very concise, and I appreciated the timing. I mean, 15 minutes is at the same time long and short, and everyone stuck to the timing. That was very good, and the discussion was entertaining. So hopefully it's the same for all the sessions. And we will have kind of a continuation of this session on Thursday. Is that Hans-Peter? Hans-Peter will be the lead, again with participating science and so on. So lots of sessions are connected together, like the one before, for instance, on remote sensing. Tomorrow there is another one on modeling connected to the remote sensing, and some questions that were addressed maybe in the previous session. We'll have answers in the following one. So I encourage you to participate to as many as you can. It's a bit in the end, it's the head is like that, but okay. So thanks a lot again, and Arthur, when you're ready, you can stop the recording.